Yeah, nobody wanted to hear that my nephew was getting christened. I mean, that's we're out there battling in the fucking freezing ass cold for 3 straight weeks, and then we got one more. All of a sudden you're just not going to show up.
Hello and welcome to Slammers Weekly. Thank you for tuning in. My name is Cole Clark. I am coming to you from Phoenix, Arizona today. We're going to get into a whole bunch of fun stuff. I'm joined by my friend Bo Garino up at the Jersey Shore today, fresh off a road trip. Bo, how we doing?
Doing well, buddy. Glad to be back. It's always nice to come back to some warm temps. It's hot as hell here right now. I'm sweating my ass off doing this. I'm doing this outside. Yeah, road trip was good, and gap season's finally here, ready to plug in here and get going. How you making out?
Oh yeah, no, I'm good. Fired up to get into this episode, but it's hot as hell here in Phoenix too. It's been like mid to high 90s the last 3 days. So yeah, it's summer. Summer's here.
Yeah, that makes sense. I guess you guys don't have much of a spring out there, but yeah, I'm with you. I'm excited too, man. Let's fire it up.
Okay. A lot to get into today, but I wanted to ask you, we haven't caught up a ton on your road trip. How were the golf courses you saw? You saw some good ones.
We ended up getting rained out at a lot of spots, which sucked, but we did get out to Pinehurst too, which was pretty neat. It's a shame when we got the conditions just weren't great the day we played it, and it's such a condition dependent course. I mean, I would say the greens were like 9.5 or 10 and bumpy, and just a little ploppy out there. It wasn't really wasn't playing the way it should, and yeah, without the bounce, the course really lacks thought-provoking shots.
I would definitely agree. Yeah, I got pretty good conditions there. It was at least rolling and fast enough. So, I don't know. I thought it was pretty cool, but I could see how if it's soggy, that place is pretty depressing.
Yeah, to me, the shot options off the tee there aren't great. It's kind of just from the back tee, it's just bang driver every hole, and the whole course lies in the second shot and around the greens, and if you're not getting those firm bounces, it's a little tough to stay engaged out there. I almost felt like, I don't know, I was just trying to use my imagination on what it would play like just to kind of stay plugged into the place. But from a U.S. Open perspective, I really find it interesting that going into the week, it doesn't really eliminate any players. Like, you don't have to be long there to play well. You don't have to really be super straight. And even recently, Keimer kind of showed you don't really have to chip super well out there either. He kind of just putted his way around there. So, yeah, it's an interesting one in that case where I feel like a lot of U.S. Opens really eliminate 80% of the field before a ball's even teed up. I feel like anybody can kind of win at Pinehurst, and you see that in the past with Michael Campbell and Martin Keimer winning. I mean, they were both kind of, you would consider like unorthodox winners for a U.S. Open, I'd say.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. The short game shots around that place are so hard, whether you're putting them from off the green or chipping or whatever you're doing. It's still not easy.
No. Yeah, you're going to miss greens out there. There's no way, it's not a course you're going to go out and hit 14, 15 greens if they're firm. You're going to be rolling off, and you're going to have to get up and in.
From some crazy spots.
Mm-hmm. As crazy as they come, especially on the first 6 holes or so.
Mm-hmm. And you saw Augusta?
Yeah, we went to the practice round on Tuesday, and the place is the tournament experience is just so different than anything else you go to. There's not many grandstands, there's no porta potties or tents or any corporate stuff. It's all just, because they have the tournament every year, it's permanent structures and, a lot of just, temporary seating with fold-up chairs, and it just has such a different vibe than really any other tournament you can go to. But a lot to say on Augusta. Let's get into the gap stuff and we can circle back later.
All right. Well, housekeeping news, gap timeline. Tee times are out for the Mid-Am. Registration is closed. Hopefully, if you wanted to play, you signed up. And you know what your tee time is now, so you can start thinking about that, visualizing the drive, the substance intake, the way the day is going to go for you, as much as you can control it. What do you think of Gap allowing you to play with your friends? I know we've done it, and I thought it was pretty fun. Yeah, you would say it's cool, right?
Well, the thing we played in it was more of like a hit and giggle. It was the end of the season. It was just something to extend the season, something to sign up for. It was like an 18-hole stroke play, Delaware Open or Am or whatever it was. And I think when you play in something like that you're solely just kind of trying to have fun, the last thing you want to do is get stuck with an unfavorable pairing. So I think in that case, it certainly works out. But I feel like the qualifiers is a little different. I don't know. I feel like I don't really want to play with my friends in a qualifier. I just want to kind of put my head down and focus on myself. I'm not really worried about anybody else's game. But no, I think for the people that do want to play with their friends, it's a cool option. But it's funny, I actually put in there like a couple times, even this year, I'm driving out with people and I put like tee time close to them, but not with them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's fun. It's kind of like part of the tradition of qualifying. It's just like getting paired with some random dudes and battling it out.
Yeah, it's like you're so accustomed to that, it would almost be weird just going out with your buddies and what feels just like a casual round and you're trying to get in something. But it is great. It's so great how they give you the tee time ranges. I mean, that's so huge. Jersey doesn't do that, and it's such a big difference when you're driving 2 hours and you might be teeing off at 7:30 versus 2 o'clock. It's like a completely different day and mindset.
Totally. All right, so thinking about these qualifiers, Five Ponds is coming up, first of the season on a Saturday. It is, this coming weekend, very soon. What do you think the number will be there? I know you got some experience. You've seen some qualifiers out there, seen some scores. What do you think it comes out to this year with 96 guys for 22 spots?
Yeah, I have it pulled up now. So last time they had the qualifier out there was in 2021. It was the Mid-Am. The cut was 75. A similar size field, similar amount of spots they took. I played in that, and I thought the number was I was kind of surprised how low the number was, especially for that early in the year. It was like a little windy and cold, and I think the field was just probably a little, was a stronger field, looking at some of the names who got in. I think that I'm going to go, if you're putting a gun to my head, I'll pick 76 this year. Some rain in the forecast, but it's still going to be 70 with no winds, so it's fair to say it's still above the average for April 15th from a weather standpoint.
Okay, so 76. What holes do you want to look out for there?
It's the course it's not a super hard course. There's just a few things you got to look out for. The 8th hole there, you could say we got to get the stats, but it's probably played as one of the hardest holes in all of Gap that year. I'm looking at the statistics. It played over a shot over par. It was a 5.04 as a 4. There was 15 others on that hole, and put it in perspective, there was only 13 others on the whole back 9. So in that one hole, eclipsed the whole back 9. It's a funky hole. I mean, if you're not super confident in the driver, if you have any kind of hook in your game, just aim right and take your bogey and take the reload out of play. Oddly enough, there was an eagle on that hole, which is amazing. Someone hold out on a 450 par 4 like that. But that's a card wrecker. And then you just got to clear the water on 17, and 12's like a rinky-dink par 5, but it's double lined with its OB left and some jungle right. You just got to get it in between the tree lines there. And outside of that, there's not a whole lot to that place.
Yeah, I can see it. It is still so early in the season, and unless you've been playing through the winter, which a lot of guys do, or at least get a couple rounds in or a week here and there, but always tricky early in the season. Coatesville, where you are going, has 110 guys, 26 spots. What do you think the number comes out to there?
That's another one where historically the number has been about 75 or 6 there, and Yeah, no one really ever goes low at Coatesville. There's something about that place. It's just tricked up enough that it keeps, the 5 or 6 birdies off the card. Like if you can make 3 out there, I'd say is a good day. Yeah, you got to think it's going to be 75 or 6 again. I can't see it. Maybe 77. I can't see it being 78, and I can't see it being 74. So probably back in that 75 to 77 range.
One of those logjam kind of situations.
Yeah, that course can really jam up because it's hard to go super high there, but it's also hard to go low. So you get a ton of those 75 to 79s out there. Fun fact, I'm looking back at the 2019 results at Coatesville. The cut was 76, and Will Davenport, the eventual winner of the whole tournament, had to qualify that year. I think he was new to the area, and he only got in by 1. He shot 75, so it goes to show you the quality of player he is, and still was hard enough for him to just kind of make it in right on the bubble.
Okay. What are the tricky holes out there?
You got to watch it. There's a couple. So the 6th hole there, or the 5th hole there, is this downhill par 4 that makes... I still don't know the right way to play it. I've played there a few times, and it's completely blind, and there's a stream that cuts across the fairway at like 270. But I like to think that drivers to play there and just bang it over it, because the approach is not something you want a big number into, but it's the worst feeling when you blast one, you have no idea where it ended up, and you go down there's no spotter, and you're like, all right, if I don't find this, I'm going back and retain. If you knew it wasn't the hazard, you wouldn't care. You would just drop and take your bogey. So I always play that one like a wimp and just throw a 5-iron down there and hit a 6-iron on the green or whatever, because you're still going to have like 180 out. That's a tricky one. And then 17 there is another one that's weird. I've seen guys airmail that green by like landing it like middle of the back of the green, and then just kind of everything kicks front to back there, and it just kind of rolls off right out of bounds. So it's one of those ones you got to be careful of just playing a little short of your yardage and erring on the side of being short rather than long.
That sounds horrible.
Those are the ones that catch you by surprise. They're like, you just like a shock to your system. You're like, did that really just go out of bounds?
But like, it can happen. You're
not even thinking about it though, right? Like a lot of times, most of the time you go out of bounds, you're like, okay, I knew there was out of bounds there. Right off the face, you're like, fuck, that's out.
Yeah, it was way offline. Like, there's a fence there, you could see it.
Yeah, it's kind of anticlimactic. But the ones where you're like in the midair and you're like, oh my god, is this gonna airmail this green and go out? And those are the ones that you just like, oh my god.
Really hard to stomach. Okay, and then the mystery course, Scotland Run, never hosted a qualifier. They actually got the biggest turnout, 129 guys, 30 spots and ties. I know it's hard to predict how Scotland Run's going to go, but what do you think?
Yeah, that is a tough one. Another nice weather day. It's on Monday, and yeah, weird that that's the biggest field, I guess, especially with Five Ponds being on a Saturday. You think people would, save the PTO, but maybe people are a little soured on the old Five Ponds experience. Everyone's kind of been there, done that. Yeah, Scotland Run, I mean, it looks like it's a par 71. They'll probably play it in the 6,500 yard range early in the season. Once again, that 75 to 77 range seems right. If I had to pick a number, I'm going with 76.
Yeah, that's usually about what it comes out to. How do you feel about courses with run in the name?
It's funny you say that, because it seems like run is unique just to this area. I don't think I've ever came across another run anywhere else in the United States. I'm sure there's others, but nothing off the top of my head. But the runs in this area, you got Sandy, you got Radley, and then Scotland. Maybe I'm missing one, but I don't think you would categorize any of those courses as great. What about your way? You don't have anything with running it, do you?
No, there's not much water out here, so there's not too many runs. Yeah, I don't know.
Well, you have a course named the Yacht Club too, and that's in the middle of the desert, and there's no yachts or anywhere a yacht could go either. So I thought maybe it was worth asking.
That's right. I mean, I love Encanto Golf and Yacht. place is excellent. All right. Well, and how could we forget about IREM? Up there in the Poconos, they got 18 guys for the qualifier. 4 guys are getting in. This is by far the hardest to predict because literally anything could happen with 18 guys for 4 spots. But how do you think this one goes?
Yeah, the volatility here is off the charts. I mean, like you said, anything goes with 18 for 4. Yeah, I don't know. You could see all it takes is 15 guys to play relatively poorly, and the number will be like 80. And all it takes is 4 guys to play well, and the number could be 1 over. So who the hell knows? I'm glad I'm not going up there because I don't like going in when you have no idea where you stand. And I think, obviously with 18 guys there'll be no scores in the clubhouse. It's pretty much just you gotta just grind it out and see where you end up when you sign the card.
I can't remember how small that Mid-Am qualifier I did a few years ago was at Valley Country Club.
I think that had like 50 guys or something. It was small, but it wasn't 18 small.
Yeah, I think like 7 got in maybe.
Yeah, maybe it was 40 guys then, something like that.
Yeah. Yeah, small. Yeah, it's interesting. All right. Well, those are the Mid-Am qualifiers. Do you know anything about the holes at Scotland Run? Obviously, we know 0 about IREM, but any advice on the course at Scotland?
Nah, it's been over 20 years now. Nothing that I would feel comfortable throwing out there to anybody.
All right. Well, tweet at us, hit us up, let us know what the deal is. Let other people know what the deal is. We'll relay the info. So there's an age-old debate about gap match strategies. So the theoretical or practical situation that clubs find themselves in at different times is, you got 8 studs, 4 slappers. Where do you put your studs? Where do you put your slappers? It would be fun to crunch some data on this. I think that may be in the works with our data team, Ben Litt. But what's your take on this age-old debate?
Yeah, so it's a 2-part question. Like you're saying, you got 4 slappers. Do you split them up? Do you keep 3 at home and just hope that somehow home course advantage plays into their favor, even though they stink? Or do you and you keep 1 on the road? Or you put all 4 at home? I mean, I think you can make a case because obviously you're sending 1 slapper on the road. He's just probably going to get crushed. It would be like a miracle if he salvaged anything. So then you have that debate, which I think is a little easier to from a Manalytics standpoint. I think I would probably go with the 3-in-1 approach. You keep 3 at home and you send 1 away and try to split it up a little bit. But you could probably make a case a lot of ways. I'm curious to see what the data says. Like you said, once we get that, hopefully we can answer that question. But I think the hardest question, and this is the one that we all go back and forth on, if you've been captaining long enough, you've probably been faced with this dilemma and probably lost sleep over this question, is when you send 2 slappers away. Say, just for an example, we'll say you and I are on the first team at Cricket Club, and we're the lambs. We're the 2 lambs. They got 4 great players, and they're playing a team that has 6 great players, and then it's just you and I. So it's like, what do we do with Bo and Cole? Do we just take our lambs and do we just sacrifice them at 1 and 2 and just say a prayer and just hope somehow they get like a half a point or a point and don't get 9-0'd? Or do we try to split them up and saddle them up on one of our strong players and just hope that they can just, ride them out and, maybe salvage some more 4-ball points, or make a couple birdies and help the guy out? I don't know, right? So that's kind of the question and I feel like it always ends up being this, right? If you have 6, you're playing 6 great players and you only have 4, you're probably going to lose 90% of the time on the road. And when you do lose, there's a chance you're going to get crushed. So it's like, it's always one of those damned if you do, damned if you don't. Like when you lose, everyone's sitting around like, oh, I should have just sacrificed those guys, or oh, we shouldn't have put them at 1 and 2. They got 9-0'd and it put too much pressure on our other guys. And I don't know. I think either way, looking back on it, it's a losing proposition. But I would love to see what the data says and what makes the most sense so we can finally settle this debate once and for all.
Yeah, that would be great. Yeah, and I totally agree. Like, if you're bringing slappers to a match, like, you already brought the wrong lineup. You can't, what's that phrase? You can't put lipstick on a pig? Something like that.
Right. There's nowhere to hide those guys for 18 holes. I mean, if you can cover like a 2-point spread in handicap, like that's not a huge deal. But if you and I are ones and we're playing a +4 or 5, like you're just not going to cover that variance very often.
No, and the bigger the sample size, the less likely it is.
Exactly.
And 18 holes is a long time, especially for a slapper.
Yeah, 9 holes you can punch above your weight sometimes, but then it always regresses back at some point.
Totally.
And also with that data, we're hoping to answer a few other questions. That would be more fun, but to kind of give an expected points, like if you're a 1 handicap and you're going away and playing a +4, like what is your expected points? It's like, is it 0.4, 0.5? Also, we'll be able to see who has the biggest home course advantage. Also break that down by 9, like what 9 has been the hardest 9 to score a point on. We could see some of the biggest upsets. We could see what club outperforms their handicaps the most and what courses are, maybe have a little bit more vanity handicaps and underperform comparatively to their handicaps. So I think it'll be really fun if we can get that, and I think it'd be data that everybody would be excited to see and potentially benefit from.
I agree. It'd be very fun to see. Okay, so I want to start a new segment, recurring segment for as long as we feel like doing it. But let's start a dream 18 holes in Gap. And we'll just we'll do one an episode, starting with episode 1. There's really no rules. You can use a course twice. You can do pretty much whatever you want until we decide we need to make rules. Don't steal mine. But what are your favorite first holes in at courses in the Gap section?
I think I know yours. Yeah, so best opening hole. I feel like this is really tough because I think there's a lot of other holes, if we're going by hole numbers, that are much easier to decide, or I think there's some no-brainers, but opening hole I'm really scratching my head over because there's a few that are good. Nothing stands out as just hands down being the best though. You think of like the best courses. I mean, Marion's is really cool, but if you take away the patio and you take away Marion, it's still a good golf hole. But if the setting's not there, would you say it's the best hole from a Bones perspective? Maybe, maybe not. I'm not sure. I like White Marsh's first hole. I like Lehigh's first hole. Huntington's is fun. Manufacturers is fun. I'm gonna go with Galloway, even though I don't feel very confident about this, and I would love for somebody to correct me and point out a better one, because I'm sure there is, and I'm sure there's something I'm missing. But I'm not the biggest Galloway fan, especially the front 9, but I do think the opening hole there is really cool and a really good way to kind of set the table there. It gives you some shot options off the tee. You can hit driver, but you don't have to. But it is beneficial to get it down there as close as you can because the green is so perched and dramatic, especially to a back pin. Like, you don't want 150 in there. Like, you want to be closer to 100 yards. And from a Bones perspective, it kind of reminds me a little bit of Pine Valley's first hole. But the backdrop of AC and the bay there, is a bit more dramatic. I don't know. I think it's a pretty good golf hole.
I like that. I'm a big fan of Manny's first hole. I do like the patio, pro shop, clubhouse vibe, similar to Marion, which is why Marion would be a close, second or third for me, probably. But I think the hole at Manufacturers is really good. The approach is cool, too. It's just perfect. Big downhill shot. You can hit it left, you can hit it right. Just, smack it, get out into the course and carry on, which is what the first hole is all about.
Yeah, you love a first hole that puts a driver in your hand, and you love one that you can kind of hit it anywhere. That's where I guess Galloway's a little tighter, maybe not ideal, but yeah, I'll stick with it.
Yeah, I think like Mackenzie's thing was like the first hole should get the player as far away from the clubhouse as quickly as possible.
Yeah, you can't argue with that. Long open par fours are certainly preferable to start.
No, it's good. The guy was smart.
Yeah, Dr. Al knew a little something, didn't he? Speaking of Dr. Al, it's good segue into Augusta. Man, that was really, I think my biggest takeaway from Augusta is that you almost wish it didn't have all the beauty and the mystique around it, because it almost detracts away from how good of a golf course it is. And I haven't been there. I went there when I was 11. I barely remembered it, so this is my first time there in a while. And walked the whole course, walked back to every tee box, like scoped out every green, really, really was into checking it out. And what an unbelievably well-designed golf course. Like, everything makes sense out there. The green sizes, the way the greens are pitched compared to how your approach is coming, the angle your approach shot's going to be coming in, and just the topography of the land, the way that's used. And it's so good. And it's I feel like myself included, I remember at times being like, oh, Augusta's probably a little overrated because of, the Masters and the flowers and the pines and, everything else. But that course is so freaking good. And I think what makes that place so special is it almost brings out the class and humanity. It's one of those rare places where it's like when I visited you a couple months ago, the last time I was at Waste Management, and it's the complete opposite there. It's just like who can get the drunkest and who could be the most obnoxious, and the Masters is completely opposite of that. And the same guy who probably had 20 beers or 25 beers at the Waste Management and was yelling stuff probably had a couple beers at the Masters and kept his mouth shut. And that's kind of the effect that place has on people. It's really, it's a special place. It even had an effect on me. I mean, we were kind of off in the corner of the course, and there was nobody around. I had to take a big piss, couldn't find a bathroom, and I'm like, I was getting ready to go pee in the woods. Nobody would have saw me, but I was like, you know what? I have a feeling I'm going to pay for this sometime down the line. This is like pissing on golf heaven. This is just not a good idea for your golf karma. So I held it, but at the Waste Management, I pissed a couple times on some cactuses out there in the middle of the course. So it's just, I guess I'm living proof of the effect that Augusta has on people.
You saw Billy Ho on the putting green, right?
Oh, oh man, that guy! Wow, what a nut job! What a nut job Billy is. I never got, you hear the stories and you've seen some videos of him heckling some guys or whatever and chirping back at guys, but yeah, he was on the putting green like a total maniac, just walking around like looked like he was all coked up, like he was just acting like a weirdo. It was like 2:00 on a Tuesday afternoon for practice round, and he's got all these tees surrounding the hole, and he's doing like this around the world drill where he's got to make so many in a row, but he's treating it like it is the Masters. Like he's got his Game 7 face on the putting green. He misses a putt and he's like crumbling to his knees. Like it was very weird, very weird. Anyway, everyone's kind of looking at him like, what's like Billy's like, this is weird. And he's head casing with his putting. The putting coach he's got a mallet and he's got the heel way off the ground. And he's like getting way over the ball like Michelle Wee almost, and he's got this poppy stroke going. Everything just looked weird, and we're all looking at him like, what the hell is he doing? He's missing like 8-footers by like a foot, and he knows the reads. It was bizarre. Anyway, there was this guy who was just trying to cheer him up. Bill was taking it a little too serious, and there's this guy by himself just genuinely sitting there and being like, there you go. When Billy would make a putt, he'd be like, there you go, Bill. Attaboy, Billy. Like, just trying to, get him pumped up. The guy does it like 2 or 3 times, and Billy stops, turns around, and he's like, yo, man, enough, all right? Cut it out. And he gives him like the cut it out with the hand gesture. And he goes back to putting, and he's like just shaking his head like he's like Jesus Christ. And we're all looking at each other like, this guy is like after that, I almost like that kind of like dispersed the putting, like the crowd around the putting green. People are like, I've kind of seen enough of this act. You know what I mean? We're like, there's better things to see here. So then to watch Billy Horschel just act like a complete jackass.
That's insane. I mean, yeah, it sounds like he's coked up or he's just got big time head issues.
Yeah, Billy Ho. I think maybe he did it because there was no cameras. They don't let any phones on Augusta, so maybe he just kind of knew he can get away with that stuff and was just showing his true colors. Because you see him on camera other times, and he seems like he's a little cooler. But yeah, I'm totally out on that guy.
So we got to revisit. A club we said some things about with really not knowing firsthand too much about it. But the Sakima guys reached out to you, right?
Yeah, those guys are great. I ended up chatting with a couple of them. Really, really cool guys. Great sense of humor. They invited me out there to come check it out. They do like a 36-hole Sunday, which sounds incredible. So hoping to get out there soon with those guys. And then they also sent as a joke, so a few days ago, the pro from my club calls me. I haven't been up there in months, and he's like, did you get some stuff shipped to the club? I'm like, I don't know. Like, what is it? Like, and he's like, crock pots. I'm like, no, what the and I'm like, oh, and I finally clicked like 3 seconds later. I'm like, those guys are hysterical. They shipped crock pots to the club as a joke because I was making fun of them having no kitchen and how their wives have to cook for the Gap matches, which I was corrected on. They do get it catered now. And they also corrected me that they don't cut their own greens. They have a green staff. But some misinformation around there. Maybe some South Jersey tall tales might have led to that. But anyway, yeah, so the crock pot's super funny. And it actually ended up working out well because I was like, he's like, what do you want me to do with them? I'm like, I don't want them. Right. And then he so long story short, we have an outing every year for our pro Kevin Duffy and his family, who truly is an incredible dude. He's beloved over here at Riverton. He has 2 children that have been diagnosed with a rare condition called SPG47. And there's only like less than 150 confirmed cases in the world. So obviously with that being said, there's not a whole lot of pharmaceutical backing. Outings like this are one of the main contributors of funding the research and development so they can continue to search for a cure for this disease. But anyway, the folks at Riverton had the idea to put these crock pots to a raffle basket that will be raffled off at the outing in September. So appreciate it, Sakima guys. My misinformed joke is benefiting a good cause, so appreciate that. And the Gap community has been super supportive of this outing. I know a bunch of clubs donate foursomes and items, things of that nature. But if anyone else is out there and can help out or looking to get involved, feel free to reach out to us and we can put you in contact with the right people. Or you can also go to cureap4.org to learn more about this cause.
Yeah, cool. Well, thank you for that info. That is, definitely a good thing that you could get involved in or donate to, and that would be appreciated. So I wanted to talk a little bit about some amateur golf stuff going on in some other parts of the country, such as where I live here in Phoenix. I got the Phoenix City Am coming up. I realized I was going to sign up. It's actually full. There's a wait list. It does usually free up for these city events, so I'm hoping I get in. But they are great. If you've never played in a city Am, I highly recommend it. You don't have to be a resident of the state or any association. All you have to have is a handicap, and in some cases, not even a verified GIN one. And it's usually like a 36-hole stroke play, sometimes 54. It's usually on a weekend, Saturday, Sunday. The entry fees usually between like $150 and $200. So it's about what you would, pay to play golf on the weekend anyway, if you play public courses, I guess. And super fun. So anyway, just shout out to those type of events. You can find them on amateurgolf.com. That's where I find out about most of the stuff. Their website's a little bit janky, but it at least informs you about it, and then you can search the event separately from the website. Their links kind of stink. but good aggregator of information. It's fun if you're, traveling or you want to make a trip out of something. And these city AMs happen, all throughout the year. They're all different times. There's ones in California and Texas, and definitely more out west than east, but pretty cool. It's cool stuff.
I've always wanted to play in something like that. I haven't yet to do that, just being like in a random area and just playing a city AM and just get the vibes of that area and the players and the people and the courses. Mm-hmm. It's definitely on my bucket list. So yeah, I'll have to keep that in mind.
Yeah, it's cool. A lot of times they'll have one round at one course and one at another, or all three different courses. The Phoenix one is 54 holes, all at three different courses, and I play the city courses here all the time, and the greens are rolling amazing right now. So should be a good event for, I think it's like $220 for the 3 rounds, so can't beat it.
I love it.
All right. Anything else we wanted to cover? Any housekeeping items?
Well, the one thing we wanted to mention was the Trout National.
Oh, yeah. I skipped over that. So Mike Trout's building a golf course, or is commissioning a golf course. Tiger is hired to build it, his firm. So I guess you said you had heard about this project before Mike Trout and Tiger had gotten involved. What's kind of the history of this place, and what are your hopes for it?
So the story goes, a friend of a friend was involved with this project, but the guys bought the land. They were construction guys, golf guys. They started building holes, and I think they built an island green out there, and we're just kind of screwing around, and they're like, wow, let's try to take this to the next level. And they hired Jack Nicklaus's firm to put some renderings together, and as far as I knew, they were going forward with it. I saw that they had a logo. The name was Silica Sands, so it was pretty official. And I was kind of waiting to hear news on when they were going to break ground, and then recently, obviously, the whole Trout news. So I guess they either one ran into some financial issues, or two just obviously got an offer that was just too good to refuse from old Mikey. So. Yeah, other way, I think I'd much rather see the land in Tiger's hands than J3's hands at this point, because he's kind of the one doing all the work for Nicklaus's firm. So, yeah, I think it'll be awesome for the area to have a Tiger course, and we'll see what he does with it. I heard it's a good piece of land, so I'm looking forward to that being done. I think they said, sometime in 25?
I love it. I'm excited. I want to see it. Cool. Well, I think that wraps it up for Slammers Weekly this week. Thank you for tuning in. For my friend Bogarino, I'm Cole Clark. Sign up for tournaments if you're not yet. There's stuff you still want to get in. All the Jersey stuff's open. There's the Gap AM qualifiers open now. So get on it. And thanks for listening. Share it with a friend or say hi to us on social media or whatever if you want. And that's it. Thanks so much.
Well, yeah, if we lost him, we could have fucking got knocked down and that'd take a whole other year to get back up to where we were. One match. I had to be there. So, you know how it is. You play those 3 weeks and you went the extra week. I'm trying to, but you clueless. Your mom, she didn't know, whatever.